Have you ever seen a compound where the landlord only wants female tenants? Or a place where all the beautiful ladies who live there never find love? Or their relationships begin to fall apart until they move out? Doesn't that sound strange to you? And shockingly, once they leave that house, everything changes. Their love is restored, their relationships healed again. That was the experience of some tenants, and of Oma, a young woman whose only mistake was moving into the wrong house. A house owned by a landlord who dominated and slept with every one of his female tenants through their dreams, making them belong to him and leaving their lives shattered. At first glance, the compound looked peaceful and beautiful. But every woman who lived there suffered the same fate, their love lives broken, their hearts empty, even though they were beautiful and attractive. Some called it coincidence, others called it mystery. But one thing was clear. Something in that house didn't want love to survive. This story will open your eyes and make you realize that some houses hold more than walls and windows. They hold secrets. In the heart of the city of Lagos stood a popular compound, Dykes Court Apartments. But it wasn't just the beauty that made this compound stand out. It was something else. Something strange. The building was owned by a calm-looking, soft-spoken man named Dyke. And Dyke had only one rule. He never accepted male tenants. Every room in that compound was occupied by young, beautiful women. People thought it was normal, that maybe he just preferred a quiet environment. But no one knew that Dyke's reason for keeping only female tenants was tied to a secret too dark to imagine. And this secret was connected to his past. Years before Dyke built Dykes Court Apartments, he had been a young man with nothing but heartbreak. He once loved a girl deeply. Her name was Elora. She was tall, fair, and full of laughter. Dyke worshipped the ground she walked on. He had dreams of marrying her, building a small home, and growing together. But dreams don't feed people, and love doesn't pay rent. Elora wanted more than Dyke could give. One afternoon, she broke his heart in two. "Dyke, I can't continue like this," she said, her voice cold and certain. "You have no job, no car, not even a proper place to sleep. You're a good man, but I can't build a future on empty promises." Dyke's lips trembled. "Elora, you said you loved me." "I do," she cut in quickly, then shook her head. "But I love my peace too. I can't suffer with you." He stared at her, speechless, until a dark Lexus pulled up by the roadside. The window rolled down, and a man wearing sunglasses leaned out with a smile. Elora turned to Dyke and whispered, "That's the man I told you about." Dyke felt his heart shatter like glass as she walked away, without feeling bad about breaking him, without goodbye. That was the last time he saw her. He stood there for hours, watching the sun fade, and something inside him snapped that evening. And he promised himself one thing. He would never be the weak one again. In the years that followed, Dyke vanished from the town. Rumors said he had joined a secret society. Others claimed he worked with a group of foreign businessmen and suddenly became rich. Nobody really knew what happened. But one thing was sure. When he returned, Dyke was no longer the poor, heartbroken young man people used to pity. He came back in a black SUV, wearing gold-rimmed glasses and clothes that smelled of foreign cologne. He bought land. He built houses. He smiled more. But it was the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. When people asked how he made his money, he always laughed and say, "It's hard work and smart connections." But behind that laugh was a secret darker than anyone could imagine. It started one night, years before he even finished his building. He had met a man in Lagos who told him, "If you want wealth and women to yourself, there is a way. But it comes with a bond." That bond, Dyke later discovered, required women, not their lives, but intimacy with them. Through certain rituals, he could tie any woman who entered his space to himself spiritually. He could possess them through dreams, draw from their emotions, their beauty, their youth, feeding on their energy while appearing normal by day. It sounded insane, but he tried it. The first time it worked, he was terrified. A young tenant named Jane moved into one of his early flats. Every night after the ritual, she came to him, not physically, but in her dreams. Her eyes were blank, and her body obeyed every command. In the real world, Jane's life started to collapse. Her fiancé left her for another woman. Her health declined. Her business slowed. Yet Dyke grew wealthier, stronger, and strangely youthful. He realized the secret was true. The more women he tied to himself, the more powerful he became. And that was when the idea came. What if every woman who lived under his roof belonged to him spiritually? He built a 3-story complex and named it Dyke's Court Apartments. He made it beautiful. Fresh paint, water 24/7, security lights, flowers, everything a lady could want. And when people came asking for rent, he had one rule. He smiled and said it so naturally that nobody questioned it. "I only rent to female tenants. I prefer women because they keep the place neat." The neighbors laughed about it, but none of them knew the truth, that Dyke's real reason had nothing to do with neatness or admiration. Every woman who signed his tenancy agreement was signing something else they could not see. A silent, spiritual bond that chained them to him in another realm. As the months passed, Dyke's building became known among young working-class women as a safe, beautiful, affordable place to live. The rooms were spacious, the environment quiet, and the landlord polite. But strange patterns began to show. A tenant named Linda once joked to her friend, "This house is too fine. I just pray I don't end up sleeping alone for the rest of my life." Her friend laughed. But 1 year later, Linda still hadn't found love. Every man that came her way disappeared suddenly without reason. Another tenant got engaged while living there. But 3 weeks to her wedding, her fiancé broke off the engagement. No fight, no explanation. He simply said, "I don't know what's wrong, but I can't go ahead." And when she finally moved out after the heartbreak, she met another man almost immediately, the same week. Nobody understood it. Even Dyke pretended to be surprised. But deep down, he knew it wasn't luck. It was ownership. Each woman who lived there belonged to him in a way she could never explain. And then came a new tenant called Oma. The sun burned gently that afternoon as Oma arrived at Dyke's Court Apartments with 2 small travel bags and a box of books. She stood for a moment at the gate, looking at the neat compound and the flower pots lined up by the wall. "Finally," she whispered, smiling. "A new place. A fresh start." She had been searching for an apartment for weeks after moving from her old neighborhood. When she saw the advert online, quiet environment, 24 hours light, water guaranteed, affordable rent, it felt perfect. She didn't care much about the landlord or his rules. She just wanted somewhere peaceful to live before her life goal plans the next year. Her fiancé, Rona, had promised to help her settle in, but he had work that morning, so she decided to go ahead and handle it herself. The compound looked calm, with a few other ladies sweeping or hanging clothes. Everything seemed normal. Then the landlord appeared. Dyke walked out of one of the apartments wearing a clean shirt and holding a bunch of keys. His smile spread quickly when he saw her. "Welcome. You must be the new tenant," he said warmly. "Yes, sir. I'm Oma," she replied, smiling back. "Good, good," he said, his eyes studying her face a little longer than necessary. "You look pretty and simple. Nice name, too. Anyway, welcome to my little paradise. Let's finish your paperwork inside his office, a small but tastefully arranged room beside the staircase. Dyke talked while flipping through her documents. "You'll like it here," he said. "The environment is peaceful and I make sure everything works properly. No noise, no stress. Just women and comfort." Oma chuckled softly. "I noticed, sir. I didn't even see one male tenant." Dyke leaned back, smiling. "Ah, yes. That's my policy. Men scatter things, but women, they make a place beautiful." His tone made her a little uncomfortable, but she brushed it off as harmless talk. After she signed, Dyke stood up to hand her the keys. Their hands brushed briefly, and she noticed his palm felt strangely cold. But she waved it off and quickly pulled her hand away politely with a thank you. He nodded, smiling again. "If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to come to me directly." "I will, sir," she whispered, and left the office. Later that evening, after unpacking, Oma felt a soft knock on her door. She opened it and surprisingly found Dyke standing there, holding a bottle of red wine and 2 glasses. "I just wanted to welcome you properly," he said. "We don't get new tenants every day, you know." Oma blinked. "Oh, really? Wow. Thank you, sir, but I'm fine. My fiancé doesn't drink, and I don't either." That moment, his smile faltered slightly. "Oh, you're engaged?" "Yes, sir. We're getting married next year." For a second, his eyes darkened, but the smile returned almost immediately. "That's nice." "Congratulations." "Thank you, sir." He handed her a small envelope instead. "For good luck." "Just a token." "No, sir, I can't accept," Oma muttered. "Take it," he interrupted softly, his voice low. She hesitated, then collected it with a thank you to avoid being rude. As she closed the door, she heard him murmur something under his breath. It sounded like, "You'll see." She froze, wondering if she heard right. But when she looked through the window, he was already walking away, whistling softly. That night, Oma arranged her bed and settled down with her phone. She sent Rona a quick message. "Finally moved in. Place looks good. Can't wait for you to visit." He replied instantly, teasing her to be sure to lock your door and he'll come the next day. Oma smiled, switched off the light, and drifted into sleep. But that was the day it began. At past midnight, Oma stirred. The air in her room felt thick, almost heavy. At first, she thought it was just a dream. She was lying on her bed, but the room looked different. There was a dim, foggy light. The curtains seemed to move even though the windows were closed. Her heart began to beat faster. She sat up slowly and called out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" But there was no answer. Then she felt it, a soft hand sliding across her shoulder. She gasped and turned around, but no one was there. Only silence. Her breathing quickened. She could feel someone's presence. A whisper came close to her ear, deep and strange. "You're mine now." Her eyes widened, and she tried to scream, but her voice didn't come out. The world spun for a second, and she jolted awake. She was back in her room. The fan hummed quietly. In reality, the curtains were still. Everything looked normal. Her nightgown was sticking to her skin, and sweat dripped down her neck. It was just a dream, she told herself, panting. But as she turned on the bedside lamp, she noticed something that made her freeze. A faint mark on her shoulder, shaped almost like a handprint. Her heart raced. The next morning, she tried to forget about it. She even laughed about it over a phone call with Rona. "Babe, maybe you watch too many movies before sleeping," he teased. "Maybe," she replied, forcing a smile. But the uneasiness didn't go away. That night it happened again. This time, the dream felt clearer. The same fog, the same cold air. She saw a figure standing near the window, tall, broad shoulders, face hidden in shadow. Her lips trembled. She tried to ask who was there, but the figure didn't reply. It only walked closer until it was standing right beside her bed. She wanted to wake up, but she couldn't move. Her body was frozen. Then she felt it again. The same hand, tracing her arm slowly, then her neck. The figure leaned closer, breathing against her ear. And before she knew what was happening, she felt him making love to her. It felt so real. And after a few minutes, she jerked violently and woke up gasping. She looked at the bed. Her bed sheet was wet. Not from sweat this time, but from the experience in her dream. Her whole body felt strange, heavy, and numb. She sat up, shaking, holding her blanket tight around her chest. "What's happening to me?" she whispered, confused. The third night was even worse. She didn't want to sleep, so she played songs on her phone, left the light on, and tried to stay awake. But around 2 a.m., sleep dragged her down. This time, she woke inside the dream again. The same fog, the same room, and the love-making scene. Her scream echoed in the dream, but not in reality. She couldn't move. The shadow wrapped over her as he dominated her. When she finally snapped awake, the clock on her wall showed 3 a.m. Her sheets were soaked again. She ran to the bathroom, shaking, splashing water on her face. "This can't be real," she whispered. But she couldn't deny the fact that it was. She checked her mirror. There were faint scratches on her thigh like fingernail marks. Her hands trembled as she picked up her phone and typed a message to Rona, but she deleted it before sending. What would she even say? That someone was haunting and making love to her in her dreams? Truly, no man would want to hear that from his partner. He would think she'd gone mad. So over the next few days, Oma tried to act normal. She went to work, returned home before sunset, and avoided eye contact with Dyke whenever she saw him. But he always smiled when she passed. A slow, knowing smile. One evening after work, he asked casually, "Hope you're settling in well?" "Yes, sir," Oma replied, forcing a smile. Her heart raced. From that night, she started keeping her lights on, sometimes even sleeping on the couch. But the dreams followed her, wherever she slept. And soon, her fiancé began to notice the difference. One evening, Rona visited after work. He brought takeout and her favorite cake. As they settled, he leaned close. "Babe," he said gently, watching her face. "You've been so quiet lately. You don't even want me to stay the night anymore. What's going on?" Oma smiled weakly, avoiding his eyes. "It's just stress, Rona. Work has been crazy," he frowned. "Are you sure? Because this isn't like you." "I'm fine," she said quickly, but her hands trembled as she picked her drink. Rona reached across the table and took her hand. "Whatever it is, you can talk to me any time about it, okay?" She nodded slowly, blinking back tears, but she dared not to tell him yet. And that same night, after Rona left, Oma locked the door twice and sat by her window staring into the night. Somewhere inside her, she already knew the truth. Something dark was following her, and it wasn't going to stop. The days that followed turned heavy for Oma. Her laughter, once loud and careless, grew quiet. Her eyes dimmed. Sleep became a punishment. Every night she dreaded closing her eyes, because that was when the dream came. That same heavy air, the whisper, the shadow that pressed close to her until her heartbeat raced like a drum. She stopped sleeping early. Another particular night, she lay awake till 2 a.m., fighting it, only to doze off by 3, and that was when it came. This time, she wasn't fully asleep. She felt the hand, the touch, the lingering, but she was helpless. Suddenly, she woke up with a loud gasp, heart pounding, sweat soaking her pillow. When morning came, she sat on the edge of her bed, hugging her knees. Her entire body felt weak. Then a knock came at the door. It was Vicky, her next-door neighbor. "Good morning, Oma," Vicky greeted. Her voice was shaky. "Did you hear anything last night?" Oma frowned. "Heard anything? What do you mean?" "I don't know," Vicky said, glancing around nervously. "Like footsteps. Someone walking inside my room. I even thought maybe you moved around too, but when I listened, it sounded like it was inside my room. I checked everywhere. Nobody." Oma's stomach twisted. "No, I didn't hear anything," she said quickly. Vicky nodded slowly. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but it felt real." Oma smiled weakly, trying to hide the panic that crept up her throat. When Vicky left, she locked the door and sat still for a long time, listening to her own heartbeat. She finally realized that whatever was happening wasn't only to her. Something was wrong with that house. 2 days later, Oma was at the compound tap washing her clothes when she overheard two other tenants talking in low tones behind the wall. "I don't know what's happening," one said. "Every night I see someone making love to me as if in my dream, but the feeling is always too real to be a mere dream." The other woman gasped softly. "You too?" "Yes, it's always a man. But I can't see his face. It's like he hides in the shadows." Oma froze. Her hands went cold. Soap slipped from her fingers into the water. She turned slowly and stepped closer. "Wait," she said quietly. "You've had that dream too?" The two women turned to her sharply, their eyes widened with fear. One of them nodded slowly. "Almost every night for 2 months now. And every time I wake up tired, weak. Sometimes I can't even go to work." Oma's throat felt dry. "Mine started weeks ago," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought it was only me." The other woman bit her lip. "I didn't want to say anything before. I thought people would laugh." That day, the secret began to spread quietly from one tenant to another. By evening, almost every lady in the building had whispered to someone else about their strange dreams. Each one described it differently, yet the details were the same. The fog, the shadow, the feeling of being touched by someone unseen. And it wasn't just the dreams. They all felt drained, constantly tired, unmotivated, and oddly disconnected from reality. Some of them complained that their lovers or admirers had stopped calling. One even said her fiancé broke off their engagement, saying she had changed. Oma listened as the stories circled. Her chest tightened with every new confession. "It wasn't coincidence," she whispered to herself. Something, or someone, was behind all of it. That night, Oma sat on her bed, thinking about everything she had heard. The pattern was too clear to ignore. The landlord Dyke never allowed male tenants. He always visited at odd hours, pretending to check the light or the water tank. He often lingered near doors longer than normal. Even his presence made the air feel heavy. The women always felt uneasy when he was around. Oma remembered the day she first met him, his cold handshake, and that strange comment he made under his breath. "You'll see." Then the realization seemed to hit her like cold water. Her heart raced as she whispered, "Could it be him?" she wondered. But it confused her the most. Because this man, this very landlord, seemed so calm and innocent to have a hand in all of these. The more she thought about it, the more she became confused. She couldn't just call him out from mere suspicion. She needed proof. That night, she decided to record herself. She placed her phone carefully on the bedside table, angling it toward her bed. She left the flashlight off, set it to record, and lay down. Sleep came slowly, but it came. The next morning, she woke up exhausted as usual, the memory of another dream pressed on her chest. She picked up her phone with shaking hands and opened the video. For the first few hours, nothing happened. She fast-forwarded to around 2 a.m., the usual time the dreams began. Then it happened. At exactly 2:47 a.m., the camera flickered. The image blurred as if smoke filled the lens. For a few seconds, the screen went dark. When it cleared again, Oma's eyes widened to what she was seeing. A shadow stood by the side of her bed. After a few seconds, the shadow became almost real, like a man standing over her now. The figure bent slowly, its form faintly resembling Dyke's build. Tall, broad, head slightly tilted. The figure leaned down and laid over her for almost 5 minutes. She saw herself moving, her legs kicking like someone in a dream struggling to wake up to reality. When he was done, the figure faded back into darkness. Oma's hand flew to her mouth. Her body shook from head to toe. She couldn't breathe. The realization filled her with both rage and fear. She replayed the clip 3 more times, hoping it was some trick of light, maybe a reflection. But no, the outline was too clear. "Dyke," she whispered. "Oh my God, so it's Dyke." Her phone almost slipped from her fingers. She looked around her room, suddenly feeling exposed. Every corner and every shadow seemed to breathe. That evening, when Dyke came around to greet the tenants as he usually did, Oma watched him closely. He smiled and joked with the women, asking casual questions about their rooms and their jobs. But now that she knew, every word he said sounded hollow, every glance too deliberate. When his eyes met hers across the courtyard, she felt the same cold chill crawl up her skin. And in that moment, she decided she wasn't going to stay silent anymore. As the evening air in the compound became unusually quiet, one by one, the tenants slipped into Oma's apartment, each woman glancing over her shoulder before closing the door behind her. They spoke in whispers. Fear and anger flashed in their eyes. Oma stood by her window with her phone clutched in her hand. The video she had recorded the night before was still on the screen. She played it for them. Gasps filled the room. "Jesus Christ," one of the tenants whispered. "That looks like him. It's Dyke." Another covered her mouth with both hands. "I told you." I knew something was not right in this house. The oldest tenant, Mrs. Nonye, shook her head slowly. She was in her late 40s and had lived there longer than anyone else. "We have to leave this place," she said. "Whatever this is, it's not normal." No woman is safe here, but Oma's voice cut through the murmurs, firm and steady. "No, not yet," she said. They all turned to her. "I want another proof to back this up," she continued. "If we all leave, he'll keep doing this to other women. He'll just find new tenants. I want the world to see what he's been doing." Mrs. Nonye frowned. "Oma, are you sure? This is dangerous." "I'm sure," Oma said quietly. "If he can come into our rooms in the middle of the night, then it means he's not afraid of anything. It's time he met fear too." The women exchanged worried looks, but one by one they nodded. That night, Oma prepared again. She left her phone camera on the same spot, facing her bed, but this time she was fully awake, pretending to sleep. Hours passed. The street outside grew silent. The clock ticked slowly past midnight. Then it came, that faint sound again. Suddenly, she felt his presence. Oma's heart stopped for a moment. She kept her eyes half closed, breathing slowly. Dyke was in her room now, barefoot, his face pale and empty. His eyes were open, but his gaze didn't move, as if he were asleep and awake at the same time. He moved like a shadow, silent and controlled. His lips moved, whispering something under his breath. Strange, rhythmic words that made the air in the room feel heavy. He walked to her bed and sat at the edge. Oma felt the mattress dip. Immediately, that sudden dizziness came crashing on her. She fought with the sudden urge to drift into sleep and also tried to stay calm. It wasn't just a dream anymore. It was real. Her heart pounded so loud she thought he would hear it. He leaned closer, his hand hovering above her arm. His words became clearer. "You belong to me now," he whispered. At this moment, Oma opened her eyes. Her voice came sharp and loud. "What are you doing here, Dyke?" He froze. His eyes widened and his body stiffened. For the first time, he looked truly human, confused and afraid. I was just," he stammered. Oma sat up suddenly. "What are you doing in my room?" Dyke turned and tried to escape through the door. Oma screamed. Her scream tore through the quiet night like thunder. Lights flicked on across the building. Doors flew open. Vicky was the first to run out, followed by Mrs. Nonye and two other tenants. They saw Dyke trying to escape down the stairs. "There he is!" Vicky shouted. The women surrounded him at the gate. Dyke's face was pale, his breath shaking. "What were you doing in her room?" one of them shouted. Dyke couldn't answer. His lips trembled as his eyes darted from one face to another. Oma came down the stairs, her phone still recording. "Say it!" she shouted at him, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "Tell them what you've been doing." Dyke took a step back, his voice breaking. It's not what you think. I was Only what? Mrs. Nanya barked. You sneak into our rooms at night? You haunt us in our dreams? You're evil! The women's shouts grew louder until his words disappeared in the noise. This moment, the security guard from the next compound arrived, alarmed by the commotion. He helped restrain Dyke, holding him until the police arrived. And that night, the secrets of Dyke's court apartments began to unravel. When the police arrived, Dyke barely spoke. His eyes looked lost and empty, but the women still demanded answers. Check his room, Oma insisted. They followed the officers upstairs to the landlord's apartment, the one nobody had ever entered before. Dyke's keys jingled weakly in his trembling hands as they unlocked the door. The moment the door swung open, the air that rushed out was thick with incense and candle smoke. Inside, they froze. The living room was arranged like a shrine. Candles stood in circles on the floor, melted wax forming strange patterns. In the center lay a wooden box covered in black cloth. An officer lifted the cloth, and inside were photos. Photos of every tenant, some smiling, some asleep, some clearly taken without their knowledge. Next to each picture lay small pieces of clothing, scarves, handkerchiefs, even earrings, each labeled neatly with the tenants' names. One of the women screamed. Another fell to the ground in shock. Oma stood still, tears filled her eyes. "My God," she whispered. Dyke collapsed onto his knees, covering his face with his hand now as he spoke. "I just wanted them to love me," he muttered weakly. "That's all. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just wanted to feel wanted." His voice cracked. Then he continued. "They always leave me. Every woman leaves. I thought if I could make them stay in my dreams, maybe they would stay in real life." The officers didn't wait to hear more. They cuffed him and dragged him out of the room. The next morning, the story was everywhere. Screenshots, photos, and short clips of Dyke's arrest spread like wildfire both on social media. Comments flooded online. "So this is why some ladies don't get married for years. This world is deeper than we think. Ladies, be careful where you rent houses." Dyke's face was on every news blog, every gossip page, and every timeline. And for once, the evil done in secret was brought into the light. 2 weeks later, Dyke's court apartments was empty. The building was sealed off with yellow police tape. Dust gathered where the tenants once lived, and silence replaced their laughter. One by one, the women relocated. Vicky moved in with her sister in town. Mrs. Nanya left to live with her son in Port Harcourt. The younger tenants found new homes far away. And just as the rumor always said, their lives began to change. Job offers, engagements, peaceful sleep. It was as if an invisible chain had finally been broken. Oma was the first to move out. She packed her bags one quiet morning, took one last look at the building, and closed the gate behind her. That night in her new apartment across town, she lay in bed. Her heart raced, waiting for the fog to come, for the whisper, the cold hand, the shadow. But nothing happened. For the first time in months, she slept through the night. No dream, no presence, just silence and peace. When she woke up, the morning sunlight filtered softly through her curtains. She smiled. Tears of relief filled her eyes, knowing that she was finally free. Free from the torment, the strange dreams, and the suffocating love that had haunted her nights. And for Dyke, he was left to face the emptiness he created, a prisoner of his own darkness. Moral of this story. Dear viewers, this story teaches us never to soil our hands in evil just because of how someone treated us. Dyke let his desire for revenge consume him, and in the end, he destroyed himself. It also reminds us to be careful about where we call a house. Evil isn't always loud. Sometimes it hides in comfort, in people who look ordinary. Listen to your instincts. When a place or a person feels wrong, leave. Did you enjoy this story? Have you ever lived in a place that didn't feel right or felt strangely heavy? Have you seen or heard of someone battling with lovemaking in the dream? How did they handle it, and did they overcome it in the end? Share your experience in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to African Tales by Day for more stories filled with real-life lessons and unforgettable experiences. See you in the next one.